everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Brian Poduska. I am Lyndon Wilson. I'm his co-host. Always introduce him. First, I want to say happy Thursday, and glad you all are joining us today. Got a great show, great guest as always. Brian does a great job of finding some real quality people to bring on and share their life experiences and how they're making a difference in all the different things that we talk about on the difference, whether it's our communities, our careers, our industries, whatever it may be. And that's just a little bit of the history of the difference. The difference started off as a radio show with about 16 sponsors, co-hosts, and guests. And when COVID hit us and kind of locked us down, we had to adapt. And so each one, every one of the sponsors decided that, hey, let's create our own show, let's create our own theme, our topic, and let's bring more visibility to more of the people in our community that are making the difference. And so that's kind of a little bit about how we got started. Brian Poduska has been with us since the beginning, and I'm really excited to have him. He's doing a great job with his show. As I said before, several different guests that he's had over time. And I'm going to go ahead now. I hope he's ready. I know he's getting set up to do a watch party on social media, so the rest of you can see him. But I'm going to go ahead and bring him in now and get his face on screen here so people can see who I'm talking about. How's it going, Brian?
Great, Lennon. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Every day that I get up and be a part of all of you guys' shows, guys and gals, it's a good day for me. I say this on just about every show, but it's true. I never realized over a year ago that I was going to be doing something like this, and the reward of it, when we really take the time to listen and get to know people, life changes. It really does change. And to kind of talk a little bit about the theme of the show, it makes the difference. And what's so great for me is that with each and every show, which we're up to about 12, 13 shows now a week, I get to meet someone new. I get to meet your friends. I get to meet the people that you're in contact with. And for business professionals in business development, and that's what I consider myself, as a business development strategist, that's the key. It's not just being introduced to someone, but it's hearing them, listening to their story, understanding them, understanding what's important to them, the journeys and the challenges that they've gone through themselves, and how they're sharing that and how they've grown their business. And so I am so fortunate that I get to hear and meet anywhere from 12 to 30, 35 people a week, brand new people that are entrepreneurs, self-employed, independent contractors, whatever it may be. Some of them are employees that have just reached a super high level. And so, man, I'm blessed. That was a long way to answer your really short question, but I wanted to get that out. I wanted to bring the visual to everyone.
I share your feelings. It's looking back over a year ago when we originally met and talked about the concept. I didn't see myself on a radio show either, and I certainly didn't see it really growing to what it is today. So
right.
I share it, and I echo the comments about it's about people and it's about relationships. It's not about just business. It's much larger than that. So I love where it's gone, and I love where we're headed, and I look forward to the journey. And it's been a fun journey, and it's been wacky. It's been hard to believe it's over a year ago now.
I know, awesome. It really is. And and of course I shared this with all the show hosts, but over the past 13 months, we've had over 500,000 impressions / viewers on the shows that we've had. We've done almost 200 shows since March. And before that, we were doing 4 a month. So, I mean, we've really increased that. The audience is growing. We're really expanding into some spotlight videos for our sponsors and contributors of the difference. And so we're bringing that awareness to those small business owners, the ones that are out there battling. I mean, especially with COVID, especially with what our elected officials, the restrictions that we're being put under, right, wrong, indifferent, whatever your opinion is about that, it still affects us all. And so we can't just curl up in our bedrooms and wait till this thing is over. We still have to market ourselves and brand ourselves and meet new people. And I think we're all taking advantage of that through the platform of the difference. And I think you and I think all the other ones, the show hosts for working with me, working through some of the trials and the errors and developing this and going along and the vision as it keeps growing, because none of us saw the way this was going to turn out. And so really, really cool.
Yeah, dude. Well, you brought something up there. You know, we've come a long way since we started, and I didn't even think about it from the macro perspective of we did this all during the COVID situation. So, you know, at least 2/3 or 3/4 of it has been since we've been, on lockdown for part of it, and certainly working from home in a lot of cases. So yeah, it's been a crazy environment to do it, but man, it's been a great ride, and I look forward to where we're headed too.
Yeah, me too. Well, Brian, tell everybody a little bit about Real Property Management, Focus, how you got started, what that's all about, and then I know you're eager to get to your guest, and I'm eager to talk to her and hear her story as well.
Yeah, real quick, we've talked about it on a weekly basis, but Real Property Management Focus is the company that I own. We focus on your real estate investments. We are a full-service property management company with full realtor capabilities. So we buy and sell properties as well as manage them, single-family, multifamily, residential, and small commercial. We specialize in working with investors. We have some unique proprietary tools one of them is called Wealth Optimizer, which helps you take a look at real estate potential investments from all different angles. So not just cash flow, but also the tax benefits you get out of it, as well as depreciation that you can take in that regard. So look us up, Real Property Management Focus. We focus on your real estate investments. That is us in a nutshell. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest. We have on the show today Michelle Burleson, a good friend of mine. We go way back in the hockey circle. So she is a fellow very busy hockey parent with three kids currently in high-level hockey programs. And in addition to that, she has, over the last 2 years, started her own businesses, I'll say plural, and we'll dive into that as well. So she has no shortage of free time. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, Michelle. I see you're in the screen. So how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. I mentioned you're a good friend. We know your family very well. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. I know we have very similar paths to how we got to where we are today with the entrepreneur route, but we were both in corporate America for the vast majority of our careers. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your road to how you got here. Share some personal information, whatever you want to share, and we'll start there.
Awesome. Well, as you said, very, very busy hockey mom. Three teenage boys that are playing, so that keeps me very busy, keeps me traveling, and all that good stuff. After exiting corporate America, really wouldn't be here, Brian, without you, without your connections and encouragement and so forth. So thankful for that for sure, but was really looking for an opportunity where I could continue to travel with the boys, support them and everything they're doing, and yet work apparently more hours than I've ever worked in my life. So because for people who don't know, that's what entrepreneurship really is. And that's kind of a little bit about me. I've also been very fortunate that this path has given me the ability to participate in a lot more community activities and supporting the community. So I've done so many fun things, from serving the police, lunch, supporting the physically disabled of North Texas. And it's been really awesome to be able to do that and also get my family involved. And those are things that, as part of corporate America, I wasn't able to do as much. And so that's been really fun. But yeah, as you said, very, very busy hockey mom. And I now have 2 businesses. So working on a bit of a conglomerate over here.
Yeah, your empire is building quickly.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's all our goals. Well, you brought up a good point there. So the theme of the show today is really, the underlying theme is taking risk and really betting on yourself, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. You've got a business model. Obviously, you're betting on that as well, but you're the one steering the ship. So ultimately, you're taking a risk on yourself and betting on yourself. So you mentioned, we're both here in the same spot, and you're right. I didn't even think about the connection with our franchise lives, and so we were basically going through the same thing of exiting corporate America and getting into betting on ourselves essentially. Tell me a little bit about your experience and how you landed, and we'll get into what your business model is. But tell me how you landed on that business per se. I know it has a lot to do with your background and your professional background, with accounting and things like that. But walk us through that process and how you landed on, the Schooley Mitchell part to begin with.
Yeah, so I love the theme. I love the betting on yourself thing because I am a licensed CPA and have been one for, I'm not going to say how many years, but it's a lot of years. And that being the case, I did kind of sit down and look at my retirement money and where it was sitting. And we bet on the stock market and we bet on maybe foreign currency. I don't know. We take lots of bets, right, with our investments. We bet on a whole lot of things. And I think it never occurred to me to take a chunk of money and bet on me for a change. Why am I betting on, XYZ company to be my retirement plan? So it is a really interesting concept. Having a solid financial background has really helped. That's what landed me with Schooley Mitchell. It is a bit of a financial services type company in what we do. Also, the thing I really like is relationship building and networking and getting to know people. And so this was a really good blend. This isn't something where you sit behind the desk and just crunch numbers. That's great, for people who want to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I may or may not have a husband who does that, but that doesn't work for all of us. Some of us need to be in front of people. And, thank you for opportunities like this platform, because during COVID, it's harder to get in front of people. And this gives us an outlet to do that. So leveraging my financial background, my relationship building, and I put those together. And again, with the connection that you provided me early on, was able to find this franchise opportunity that was a very natural fit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate to the number crunching aspect of the jobs we previously held. I was in the finance organization of PepsiCo for years and supply chain as well. But that's it's. We can both speak firsthand about how different life is now versus when you were sitting behind a desk crunching numbers. Now there was relationships all over the place there as well, but you're not tied to an office. You're not tied to a computer. You're not tied to spreadsheets. Now, of course, we still all use them, but that's been one of my biggest benefits or things that I like most about starting the new business is the ability to get out and just meet new people, just connect with folks, because you just don't do that when you're in a corporate role. So I've found that also to be very enlightening. It keeps you going, and like you said, it's a little tougher to do when we're not in person, but we're doing things like this and meeting over Zoom and can still get by.
Yeah, some of us will not be stopped.
No,
That is a great statement right there, because when I was in real estate back in 2008, when the market crashed, that's really what got my attention, is how some people actually got better during the crash, and some people actually collapsed. And then we hit COVID, and you see the same commonalities. And it's people with a mindset that they don't give themselves an option to not grow, to not figure it out, to not adapt. And sometimes these things are necessary for us all to grow and adapt. Kind of like what you said in the beginning, Brian, what we've all been able to do collectively within the Difference family since COVID happened. Excuse me. And you see some people just thrive through the chaos. And I've always been just really interested in how they do that. And it comes back to mindset. Michelle, I want to ask you, and I know I've asked Brian, I've asked you this question before. Coming from corporate world, which I did myself 100 years ago, what was the biggest challenge? What was your fear leaving corporate, going into betting on yourself, right? And then what was the biggest challenge? What was the, here I go, Brian, watch me, mindset shift that you had to go through? I butchered that one time. Michelle's the reason I said it that way, and Brian called me on it.
Yeah, it had to do with missing an F in there.
Yeah, I completely missed it. Got tongue-tied. But what was the biggest mindset shift that you had to go through coming from corporate into the entrepreneurial world?
I think the biggest fear for me, fear of unknown, fear of failure, fear of not having a steady paycheck and a big, huge bonus to buy my cars with. I mean, these were some of the fears that I had to get over. And that really plays into the mindset shift, because you can't be successful if you're going to fear. It's okay. I mean, it's natural, right? We're built that way, and we're built that way for a reason. It's to feel fear. But if you're going to let that dictate your life, your story, your direction, there is no success in that. So that for me was the mindset shift, was having to acknowledge that these fears were okay, but I was going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it despite the fear, and just keep going.
Yeah, that's Lyndon. You stole my question, because fear.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. We're on the same page. Fear. When you're starting out on your own, whether it's starting your own business or even getting into a new company and taking it back to corporate America, there's fear no matter what. And you're right, Michelle. I think you just kind of have to acknowledge it, internalize it, and then really use it to your advantage. Because, I mean, having your own business, you have a vision and you have a plan, but getting there is the hard part. And you're always fearful. Okay, what if I don't make my numbers? I don't even know what's going to happen next week sometimes, or even tomorrow, or the next hour. But I've taken that fear and I've used it to drive things, right? It's, your fear of failure. Sure. Everybody has it. But how do you overcome that? And how do you turn it into something positive, as opposed to let it dominate what you're doing and freeze you up?
Right.
Yeah. And I think part of that is you have to look at it as not failing, but exploring, right? I'm exploring this opportunity. I'm giving it my all. It's not part-time by any stretch. There is, no other fallback or revenue stream. So yeah, but it's you have to look at it differently. You have to look at like you're exploring something, and then you don't look at it as much as a failure, and that's, to me, I mean, it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get up. We all hear that, but there's a lot of truth to that. It's not just cliche. You don't come out of the gate and you're good at everything you do. So you have to work at it. You have to earn it. And, once I kind of shifted my mentality that way, it became a lot easier.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Lyndon was a football coach for many years. So I think he's probably used that that phrase and mini speech on his athletes over the years.
Once or twice.
So let me ask you a question, Michelle. Personally, from my experience, I had always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something on my own, as opposed to being the corporate rat race for forever. And I, specifically focused on real estate because it's a passion of mine. So it felt natural when that time came to actually make that leap. But at certain times, the fear of actually going on your own prevented me from doing that. What key thing or things, I guess, pushed you over the edge to go ahead and just do it?
I think, like you said, similar, right? I've wanted to own my own business as long as I can remember, since my 20s. But I didn't really know what that looked like or what that meant, or even maybe didn't have a passion for what I wanted to do. And so I toyed with many ideas over the last couple decades. We'll just leave it at that, couple decades. And, yeah. I'm also not saying the ages of my kids or anything else. But I, finally, it just seems like the right, I guess, time in life and in where I was in my career. And it felt like a now or never moment for some reason, right? Like if I don't take this leap of faith and give this a try now, when am I going to do it? I don't want to look back and say, oh my gosh, I'm another, 10 years in a corporate, role and not owning my own business. And so it was time, like I said, to just invest in myself instead of in, the stock market or, mutual funds or something safe, because I'm not safe. So it was time to, invest in me and do that. But that's what it was. It just felt like timing. And I was actually talking to a good friend of mine, but she is a career coach. One of the things she said is, specific to women, for some reason, women in their 40s, that is not unusual, that a bunch of us will make that leap and say, now is my time. And I feel like part of it is maybe it is the age where my kids are a lot more independent. So from that perspective, it's a little easier to be able to, do everything I need to do from a work perspective. I have a lot of friends who are struggling with virtual schooling. So for me, whether my kids are virtual or face-to-face, but they're getting it done. I don't need to handhold that process anymore. So the time just really felt right. And so more than anything, I think it was that. I think it was timing, and I think it was finding my passion and realizing that at the core of it, I'm not lazy per se. I joke that I'm lazy. I'm extremely busy. And so I find shortcuts. I find efficient ways and fast ways to do something. I don't like waste, and I'm frugal. I say cheap, but again, people have said use the word frugal, so frugal. So if you take this cheap and lazy combination, when I start talking more about what I do, it'll make perfect sense of why this is a fit.
Well, and I came from the supply chain world of driving out all inefficiencies, so I can relate to your business model and why it's beneficial to folks who require your services or can benefit from your services. Before we dive into your businesses, I did want to talk about one thing, or just touch on one thing. So as a finance person or as an accountant, and I'm a finance person by trade, I guess you can call us risk averse. So I think what I heard in your your experience, and I can speak to my own as well. I agree. We're probably both risk averse at heart, but at the same time, it's the now or never mentality. Like when are you going to do it? You got to take a risk at some point, and why not bet on yourself if you're confident in your abilities and your history and your skills and your knowledge. I agree. I think we both probably took calculated risks in that, we didn't just say, oh yeah, now's the time. But we took the time to think through, both from a financial and a stage in life, point of view that, yeah, it's not now or never, but it makes sense right now to do it. So I think we both probably share that in our experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love getting out and meeting all these other business owners. I was talking to one this morning who just opened up a shop in July of all, times to open something retail. And it's just awesome to be able to encourage other people to, that because some of them take the leap of faith and then it's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And then it's panic. And I love being that sounding board for people when that panic sets in, to say, wait a minute, you did this for a reason. You can still do this. So what? There's a global pandemic, et cetera.
Minor stuff,
Minor details.
Well, and I can share a story too that I've had several friends of mine, former coworkers with PepsiCo. They're going through another reorganization now that seems to be an every year occurrence, and it's not unique to PepsiCo. It's everywhere out there. So, that's why I thought this topic in particular is a good one for this time period, because large corporations are looking for ways to stay afloat and cut costs. And, unfortunately, restructuring is one of those, the biggest way you can do that. So hopefully this, the topic is relevant. I know it is to several of my friends out there, former coworkers.
Brian, I got a question for both of you. And it's something that we talked about on another one of our shows. But when we're talking about, and I think this is definitely relevant, when we're talking about risk and betting on yourself, and then you look at corporate world, and I could get into a long story about why I was turned off of corporate world about 18 or 19 years old, with what my mother went through. But when you're taking risk and you're betting on yourself by going into business for yourself, is that any less risk adverse than working for a corporation where you have no control over your future, really? Because based on COVID, the economy, whatever politician might be in office at that time, whoever, I know when JCPenney changed upper management, they got rid of, a couple thousand people. So which one really is more risky? And my point being, I would rather bet on myself than that corporate structure or politics or the economy or a pandemic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, I'm looking for my hammer. It's not in my office right now, but you just to nail.
Now, still your other question
on the head. No, I think you nailed it. You're exactly right. You can become. It's not outcome dependent. What you're doing, you're driving your own future. You're providing your own answers. You're not. For lack of a better term, a slave to the man, so to speak.
Right.
And when you can control the outcome, and you're in the driver's seat. So yeah, I think you're spot on. It's not really a huge leap, I guess. Thanks.
Well, controlling the outcome has a lot to do with your longevity, right? With your perseverance. I can't control whether they keep me, but if I'm working for myself, I can control whether I keep pushing forward or not, regardless of how lean one particular month may be versus another. There is feast and famine when it comes to entrepreneurship. And if anybody tells you any different, they haven't done it. There is feast and famine. But betting on myself, I know I'm not going to quit because I've not given up. As our good friend Dustin Payne would say, you burn the ships.
Yep.
Get to the shore and you burn the ships, and you don't give yourself a place to retreat to. That way you push on through. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. I think it's awesome because I worked for, Fortune 500 companies and, big ones. And they, like Brian said, every year they go through a reduction in force. Basically, it becomes an annual event or more often. And you're right. In your own business, you don't quit, but you can't control whether the company quits you. And so there is that. And then I worked for startups. And then with startups, you don't know how that's going to play out. They run out of funding and things happen. So you're right. For us risk adverse numbers geeks, this may be the less risky option.
I think so. I trust me more than I do anybody else.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, if you're going to trust yourself, who are you going to trust, Linda?
Right.
That's true.
Well, hey, what I want to do next is I want to get into your businesses, Michelle. Before we do that, I'd like to mention our sponsor, a good friend of mine and a referral partner of mine, Greg Holdberg. He owns an health insurance business. So before we get into the next segment, it'll be brought to you by Liberator Health Insurance. So I see it's up on the screen there. So now is the time. We're running about a week out, I think, from the government marketplace sign up deadline. So a lot of folks are going through this decision right now as to, especially if you're an entrepreneur, looking at your health insurance options. So Greg offers a program that is completely different than what you have in the marketplace. His company is called Liberator Health Insurance. They have plans that allow you to see any doctor, to go to any hospital in or out of network. You can save 40 to 60% on your premiums. Liberator just insured a single mom with 2 kids with great benefits for under $330 a month. That, I believe, is probably a third of what you would pay in the marketplace plans, something like that. So his plans offer the largest PPO provider network in the United States. It covers hospitalizations, surgeries, doctor visits, preventative care, health screenings, teledoc, x-rays, MRIs, labs, emergency rooms, and urgent care, and much, much more. As an independent broker, Liberator works with some of the best insurance carriers in the industry to get you the most coverage at an affordable monthly premium. How do you get a hold of them? Just call or text Greg Holdberg, independent health insurance broker, at 214-886-4688, or visit them at the website at www.liberatorhealthinsurance.com. And we've had Greg on the show before. Really has a unique offering. So if you guys are going through this decision, look up Greg. It's free to talk to him, and the consult is totally free. So reach out to Greg if you're looking for an alternative to the government health plans out there. And his information is going to be scrolling throughout the program, and has been. So with that being said, Michelle, let's talk about your businesses. So you've got two big ones. Talk about Schoolie Mitchell, which is the first one you started up. When we got together and talked about what do we want to do with the rest of our lives, and started exploring our options. Tell us how you got into Schoolie Mitchell, and tell us what Schoolie Mitchell is, and how it can help your business.
Well, awesome. So like I said, kind of a cheap and lazy thing, right? So that's what Schoolie Mitchell is for, those business owners that are both cheap and lazy. It's really for those who are trying to get, they're concerned about the financial health of their business, which should be every business owner, right? Unless you're a hobbyist, but true business ownership, you have to be concerned about the financial health. And also, I've been talking to people about doctors' offices and law firms, and why those are really good clients. They're working on billable hours. So any kind of busy executive, busy entrepreneur, people who bill their hours, those are not people who should spend their time scouring their invoices to make sure they're correct every month. That is really important, but really not the best use of their time. So what I become is like the vendor management, the outsourced vendor management for specific expense items. And I work with the really, really complex things that a business has. So for example, merchant processing, that is an unregulated area. It's a very complex area. The invoices are super hard to understand, and it's difficult to benchmark those rates against all the other companies. But the reason that I have the ability to do that, whereas an independent business owner or even the savviest of a CFO can't necessarily do it as effectively, is technology. We have a database. It is actually 2 databases, and they are incredible. And we have a lot of different market pricing benchmarks. So we have supplier side data and we have customer data. And we just, from there, can formulate what the best pricing structure is. So merchant processing is one area. Another area where very complex and where I really enjoy is telecom. Telecom is everything from your cell phone to your office line to your internet, data conferencing, video conferencing, etc. So we do look at all of that. Super cool thing is I am not tied to a specific vendor. I'm not going to put you with, Verizon or AT&T or, Joe's MSP down the street because I get paid a percentage of what they do. It's actually quite the opposite. I'm independent and objective. So what I do is I look for the best deal that I can find for these businesses, which may be the vendor they're with. And we do encourage businesses to stay with the vendor they're with because then they don't have to go through a change process, right? So we do try to structure deals with their current vendor as well. But again, we know the market rates, we know the right structures, so there's a way to go about that. Long story short, we end up with 3 options. If they go forward, they will save money, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't go forward. That makes no sense. And they pay a percentage of what they save. So there's no investment on their behalf. There's no risk. And they've saved a bunch of money and a bunch of time because we've done all the work for them and we continue to monitor those invoices. And that is my passion.
So let me get this straight. So you do all the work. You don't send a bill. You just take a percentage of whatever cost savings you're able to provide to the business, and they come out as a business owner. You come out ahead, right?
Right. There's no way to come out anything but ahead. I mean, you can choose not to go forward with any cost reduction to keep what you have for whatever your reasons are, and that's okay. But then you don't get a bill.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a pretty easy sale.
It's definitely a no-lose situation, no lose. So there's nothing but upside financially. So it really helps, if the way I look at it too is companies need more room in their budget now, perhaps more than ever, or at least since 2008, like Lyndon brought up, right? We had the telecom bubble that burst in 2001. We had the housing market collapse in 2008. And now we have our 2020 global pandemic. We survive all these things. And if you notice, there's a bit of a pattern in terms of how many years goes by. So you can do the math on when the next problem will occur. But keeping financially healthy and improving your margin so that you do have that money in your budget to do other things, perhaps marketing, perhaps you want to focus on growth. I guess holiday parties are kind of out the window this year, but that's another example I usually give.
Well, when we have our next show on conspiracy theories, I'll make sure you're booked for that one. I picked up on what you said there. I like that theory, but yeah, no. So that, I mean, it's a great service for small, medium, large businesses. I know you work with all of them. And I heard you quote a pretty big number to the tune of, I thought it was about $500,000 of savings. Can you just throw out a couple examples of some of the savings you've been able to provide for clients?
Yeah, it's been really rewarding to be able to save people money. And yes, one of them, we're still doing calculations and we're still finding savings. This is a really big client, and we did have to present a draft just to let them know like where we were currently and get some preliminary decisions made. So our first number is $183,000 a year. That'll be for 3 years. So that's a big number. And like I said, we're working on more for them. It's that one's awesome for a couple of reasons, because it is a big number, but it's also a nonprofit. So those dollars are really, really important to them. So, but then, it's funny because then some people hesitate to call because they're like, well, my office is small and you're not going to save that kind of money and it's not worth your time. And I'm like, I mean, it is and it isn't. A client's a client, and I can still save on smaller clients. Sometimes they save 40%, and that's a big blessing to their business. So I love doing those too. So you're right. It doesn't have to be It could be small, it could be medium, could be large, but there's definitely been a lot of great successes in terms of savings.
No, that's fantastic. And from a business ownership standpoint, I'm always looking at ways to better drive growth, right? So if you can take some from below the revenue line and put it up, put it into your marketing dollars and drive more at the top line, then I mean that's a no-brainer. So that's awesome. So that is one of your businesses. Tell us how you got into your second piece of business that you're running. Tell us about that business and how you got into it, and how that can also help drive that top line for business owners.
Yeah, so I did I know Lyndon said we couldn't just hide in our beds and wait for this to be over. And I don't want to argue with his statement because I know it's true, because I tried that. That lasted about a week back in March. And when it wasn't over in a week, I was like, okay, well, now I got to do something. This isn't going to work. So I had to, sadly, I had to turn off Tiger King and get back to work. And that's, it started setting in maybe in April that this wasn't going to end quickly, like a lot of us thought. This wasn't a 2-week ordeal. And my heart was breaking over some of what I was seeing go on with some of the prospects and businesses I was working with that weren't going to survive. And I still have several friends, unfortunately, that are funding their businesses out of pocket, because what happened was, if you think about the economics of it, the government did step in and they did help us with things like PPP and EIDL, but even the government wasn't planning, nobody was planning for this to go on 8 months, 9 months. So it's just, in a lot of cases, not enough. So how do you help, right? That's the big question. I think you start to feel helpless as a human in that situation because you can't control a global pandemic, but you want to help. And one of the things that I was introduced to was opportunities for small business to be able to participate in affordable TV advertising. That's how this all started. Very targeted TV advertising. So being able to identify the target market for a small business. So if you are a property manager, what people are likely to need your services, right? So doing some research, doing some analysis, and finding out where best you should be advertising. How do you reach those customers? So it all started with that, with a small business offering for cable TV. But in order to be able to help people with that, I had to start a second company, basically, another corporate structure. And I started Burley Media. And so that's what I'm doing now, is finding affordable marketing options. Cable TV is not the right answer for every type of business. It's just not. But it is for a lot of businesses. And so we've been able to help a lot of clients with anywhere from $56 to $86 a week and put them on cable TV. That one's not as targeted an approach. The targeted approach does cost a little bit more than that, but it's great to know that there are options out there for those of us who have small businesses. We don't have to be a PepsiCo and advertising, during Super Bowl to reach a broad audience. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity. So to the extent that I can save people money, and what you said earlier, Brian, I can save them money, they can invest in their marketing and then grow the top line and continue to save on that bottom line, the expense side of things. That's wonderful. That's going to take people a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And I can speak to some of the spots that I've seen some last Friday, and they're professionally done. They're extremely affordable. Not only the ad time, but the actual spot itself is extremely affordable. So for the right business, and you said it's more of a shotgun approach, if you will. It's not super targeted because it's just it's a commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for some businesses that makes a ton of sense, especially it is targeted geographically. I'll say that. So if you're a restaurant owner in McKinney or any of the towns that you can run an ad on, it could make a ton of sense because it's a very affordable way to get your name out there, especially in times where people may not know you're open, or they may not know that you offer carryout, or whatever the situation may be. It is a very affordable way to get your product out there in certain geographic markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had one client update his commercial, during COVID. He made a minor update to provide a discount. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. And the other thing that I know, because I've sat down and had lunch with you and your business partner, it's not just cable ads. You guys have online marketing that you can do, and that is very much more dialed in and specific to your business and who your target clientele are. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, that part's awesome because, like I said, it's not a one size fits all approach. Cable TV isn't for every single business going to be the right answer for their marketing strategy, but sometimes digital online marketing is. So, as I think everybody knows at this point, screen time is a popular thing right now. People are in front of a screen, whether you stream your TV or whether you watch cable or whether you're on the internet, you're on a screen. So we do have advertising solutions that address any kind of screen, anytime, basically. And the digital marketing is really cool because they do have some of the most advanced research. So that's the key thing, is to get to know somebody's business. What is their target market? You could geofence, you could retarget, but the data that we have to do that with is amazing. It's an amazing amount of data because they're able to obtain all the data from everybody's individual internet usage and, again, what they're watching, whether they're streaming or cable. They put all that together. And so they basically, I know it sounds weird, but they know where to find you from a screen perspective. They know where you're going to go and how to get the messaging to you. So online video ads, that's a very popular thing. Really, really fun stuff that you can do right now.
Michelle, do y'all create the videos, or do you have them created and then y'all market it?
We create it. So we have right now a professional production team. And some of the videos that we showed Brian on Friday that he was speaking of, they are only $250 to create. It's a 30-second video. They're very professional. We get some basic messaging. We help the customers with their messaging, and then we get some pictures. And it's a professional voiceover as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you guys can target the home conversations that Alexa picks up, and all of a sudden they splash, an ad splashes up on your phone, and you're like, oh, how the heck did that happen?
Yeah, see, now I know how that happens. I'm like, wow, that's what that is. It's exactly right.
Yeah, no, that's cool stuff, and yeah, it's pretty powerful. The technology that you guys have is great, and I think it's at a very affordable price tag to reach exactly who you want to reach. So thanks for sharing that piece of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Like, it's great to cut the bottom line. I think it's necessary, but you also have to grow the top line, right? How do you do one and not the other? So that's why these became, I don't want to say adjoined, but they are adjoined in my world.
Yeah, no, that's a great synergy for sure. All right, so thanks for sharing about your businesses, Michelle. I think there's great opportunity for those of our listeners. I mean, it's a perfect target market for you. So look Michelle up and see how she can help you both in the cutting costs in the middle of the P&L and helping to drive your top line. Look her up. All her information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. That being said, just kind of bringing it full circle, we're getting short on time, but knowing that you're a busy hockey mom, you've got crazy busy kids and travel schedule, starting 2 new businesses. I always ask this of folks that are in the same situation, similar to mine anyway, and that our kids are all running around to different travel sports. work-life balance. How the heck do you manage all that?
So it's interesting. You'll rarely see me at a networking event in the evening. I kind of have my hours, if you will. Not that I don't work in the evenings, but I do cut off at roughly 5:45. And Brian, it's a passion of mine, is lifting weights like a crazy person. And so that's where I can be found usually from 6 to 7. But that gives me the mental break. And then from that time on, it's family time for me. So I'm either doing something with the husband and the kids, or if they're getting on my last nerves, then I lock myself back in the office.
With a case of wine.
Yeah, and work some more. But yeah, lots of carpooling. So, heavy reliance on friends as they rely on us, and creative solutions like that. It's great that we are, one of the great things that we've learned from the pandemic is how mobile we can be. I can bring my laptop and my phone anywhere and work in a parking lot if that's, if that needs to be done. So yeah, that's kind of how I create balance.
Gotcha. The other good thing is it's now socially acceptable to do exactly that. So people get it if you're, jumping on a call from your car and hopefully not driving at the same time, but I have to say I've done it before.
I was going to say, I wasn't going to call you
do
out.
it yesterday, Brian.
That's right. You did. I popped in on the show yesterday. I guess I was driving for a little bit of that.
Your eyes were on the road, though. I will say that. Your eyes were
Thanks.
on the road.
I appreciate that.
Just in case your insurance company is listening, your eyes were on the road.
Awesome. Well, hey, I think we're coming up on time, but Lendon, anything else you want to ask Michelle while we got her on her focused attention here?
Other than I left her a message in the private chat, I want to talk to you more, Michelle, about what you do. Because obviously I'm running a small business. I've got a lot of contacts in the small business world. I think that I understand, one of the things that is in the marketing materials for the difference is most businesses don't struggle or fail because of a bad product or service. They struggle or fail because not enough people know what they do. And we're not getting our message out. And social media, digital media provides that opportunity like no other time in history. So I would love to talk to you a little bit more about what you do, kind of understand it a little bit more and see if maybe I can point some people in your direction or maybe we could possibly connect and figure out something we could do together.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Let's make that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
See, look at that, making connections. That's what we're all about on the difference.
Always.
Cool. Well, Michelle, I just want to say personally, thank you for jumping on the show today. Glad you were able to get your message out and what your businesses are. But, thanks again for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it. Lendon, thanks as always for running the difference and really being your brainchild. I think we've come a long way, and I'm excited about where we're going as a group. So thanks to you. Thanks to our sponsor, Liberator Health Insurance, Greg Holdberg. Please, again, look him up if you are at all pondering changing health insurance or even just looking at potential alternatives. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of this week. Look us up next Thursday, 1 o'clock. We'll be here. Real Property Management Focus. Look us up if you need property management services. But with that, I will say goodbye for this week and see you next week.
The Difference is a proud supporter of the following nonprofits: Creek and Timber Legacy, providing outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness. You can find more info at creekandtimberlegacy.org. And Sharp Shoes. Through local schools and shelters, Sharp Shoes helps provide new shoes for countless needy people and their families. You can find more info at sharpshoes.org.